My friends, how are you? This is Multidimensional Human. I am Rachel Archelaus. I like to talk about all things extrasensory, neurodivergent, queer spectrum, meaning that if you're listening to this, there's probably something about you that lives a little outside the norm. We make our own decisions, we follow the beat of our own drum, and luckily, even though we're all unique, we can come together with the same desire to just live our own lives and be as happy as we can be. It's been a while. I haven't been here in a while because sometimes I'm an inward being, and sometimes I'm an outward being. And I've been in for a while, like over a month. I was sewing a lot, making things for my holiday market, which is still available on archelaus.com. Go to our store tab. There's some handmade stuff if you would like to peruse. But other than that, I've been writing a lot. I've been creating, I've been researching, I've been editing, just doing a lot of inward things. And I love doing that. It's a rich part of my life, but I also love doing this and I love talking to you and connecting with you. But sometimes I can't do both at the same time. I don't know if you can relate to that, but like I'm either inward or I'm outward. And I'll go so far. My friend Carrie knows, like sometimes I'll just drop off the planet. We communicate on Marco Polo. Sometimes I just won't be on there for a week and she'll be like, "What the heck, dude?" And it's just because I'm in. I'm in. I did a survey, my first postgraduate survey, and it was all about my community, you, and where we fall as a collective on that spectrum that I was talking about, the intersection of neurodivergent, queer, extrasensory. You guys are all here for a reason. Even if you don't label yourself as any of those things, you're still here because there's some connection in spirit, in vibe, whatever, right? So I expected there to be just an overwhelming amount of consensus in this survey, which of course there is. But I love that because we're not publishing the results of this. This is not it's not like a professional scientific survey. I just wanted to get to know you all. I wanted to know how to serve you better, what you want, and also to validate you and show you that you're not alone. Because unfortunately, one of the big themes that I discovered in the survey results is that loneliness is a big part of being queer, being extrasensory or highly sensitive, and being neurodivergent. So even if you've never had a formal diagnosis, there's a different way that the brain operates, right? That you can pick up on yourself. Like it's kind of like I told my friend this once. You're born gay and you just know eventually that you're gay, right? You just know and or you know that you're bi or right, you figure yourself out and you don't need a diagnosis, right? It's not a pathology. And that's kind of the same thing with some or all, I don't know, neurodevelopmental. It's not a disorder, but that's what they call it. If you know enough, right? If you do enough research, if you know enough, you can diagnose yourself, and self-diagnosis is valid within this community for the same reason as you can call yourself gay if you know you're gay. Not a big deal. So I have some notes. Why don't we talk about it? Why don't we talk about who you are. And if you want to add to this discussion, go take our survey. It's at archelaus.com/survey, or just go to archelaus.com, ARCHELAUS, and then go to the top where it says survey. So I already talked about loneliness, but usually later in life, people are self-diagnosing. And this one person said at age 50, it became clear that they're crazy, in quotes, was really a gift. So that can happen. And I think that does happen as you get older because you just have more perspective. I know for me, I wasn't self-diagnosed since after 40, So anyway, that's a real theme too. extrasensory, right? You see, feel, hear, know beyond ordinary, right? Beyond the ordinary senses. And most people describe themselves as clairsentient, feeling emotions or energies physically, claircognizance, knowing, right? Just having a knowing, kind of like you could call that intuition as well, and having an energy sensitivity or empathy. Empathy was very well represented here. And that can be from a lot of things too, right? So I I just created, I haven't even really debuted it yet. I've just like emailed it out yesterday to a couple people who wanted more information early. But I created a certification for practitioners about multidimensional awareness because there's a lot of overlap between the intersection I always talk about, but also growing up experiencing trauma, right? Like a lot of us have not just PTSD, but CPTSD that comes from just like the world is traumatizing, right? Like if you are hypersensitive and you grow up in this world, like there's a lot that you have trouble compartmentalizing and dealing with and processing because you are, neurodivergent minds experience so much sensory input. It's crazy. And empathy can be a trauma response where you learn to take in everything, including other people's emotions, in order to have some kind of idea of how to be what is easiest for everybody, right? So there's like a lot going on there. Empathy is an extra sense, but it's also a trauma response. And as a practitioner, knowing how to determine the difference and knowing where the extrasensory part can be helpful and not just the trauma response is really helpful. So, anyway, I am really looking forward to next year, like having a whole long, it's 6 to 9 months, it's a private mentorship where I'm bringing people, coaches, therapists, counselors through this multidimensional awareness education, training, and integration so that they can expand how they help this population, which is exciting for me because I'm a nerd and I this is my jam. Okay, so how do you experience empathy? Do you feel like it's helpful? Do you feel like it's harmful? Do you feel like it is a trauma response where it's just like stemming from trying to keep the peace, trying to stay out of the way, trying to be like invisible? I I had like a rude awakening of empathy in my teen years when I had that whole big crazy haunted house experience. I couldn't go to restaurants, couldn't go to the mall. Like it was almost like I became agoraphobic because the energy of people was too overwhelming. It wasn't that the outside was overwhelming, but it was like people were overwhelming because I felt everything and it was terrible. But at the same time, being in that low of a place, I also interpreted everyone's energy in a negative way. And so that's something to think about too. You perceive based on the level of consciousness or the vibration that you're at the time. So if you're like, this, if you have a bad day, you are going to think that what your partner said or what your friend said is negative or snarky or sarcastic when it's maybe not, right? You're going to say, "Oh, why did you say it like that?" And they're going to be like, "What? I didn't say anything." And they mean it, right? But if you aren't having a good day, if you're already seeing things negatively, if you're naturally a pessimist, you're going to interpret things negatively because that's where you are. You can't be anywhere else. But again, if you're having a great day, if you're in a great mood, then things are going to roll off way easier. You're not going to care. You're not going to take it personally if someone even does say something negative to you, right? That's a huge thing too with empathy is like, where are you? And that is really how you are interpreting. Yeah, that's a big one. Empathy is a big one. There was a question about queerness, or a couple of questions, and it's interesting because like the theme that showed up was that queerness is an identity and a metaphor. So we do have a huge LGBTQ plus population here, and that doesn't surprise me. We're all very fluid, right? So even if you aren't sexually queer, maybe you're gender queer, maybe you just feel like you live outside the box, right? And that was a big thing, living beyond societal boxes and having the freedom to embody your full spectrum of self. That's really what queer is. And within that, we have a lot of labels that can be helpful in finding community, right? I'm not a huge label person, but if you're new to something, if you're trying to figure yourself out, having a label can help you like find a book, find a resource, find a group, find a person, right? And for that, I think it can be amazing because we do live on a planet. We live in a physical world or seemingly physical world. And so having differentiation down here can be really helpful, even if we're not so differentiated up here. So I love that. Here's a quote. People can exist in many ways. We are not meant to be cookie cutter clones of each other. Heck yeah, totally. So, multidimensionality. It's just a huge word, right? It's a word I love because it can mean so many different things. And asked what being multidimensional means, nearly everyone said it was about knowing themselves as more than the physical body or as existing on another playing field, which I think is so cool. A quote is, I feel more and more seen and understood. Although I'm always in touch with parts of myself, I may share only one particular side with people who don't get the rest of me. And I totally get that because it would go over their head anyway, right? I do the same thing. But I do think that that can lead to some of that loneliness, right? Like sort of holding yourself back. Again, not saying that's wrong. I do it too. But I always wonder, like, if I was just super out there, super just letting it all hang out, like, what would that be like too? You know? A quote I always go back to comes from David Wolf, but I think he read it from somewhere else. I just heard him say it. He said, we are self contracting beings. Like, look at me right now, hunching over my desk, talking into this microphone. We are self contracting beings. And yes, it might feel like the world has us in a vice, trying to make us those cookie cutter clones, but we're the ones actually crunching ourselves, right? Because of this perceived need. And so, what is it like to actually unfurl, take a breath, be yourself, reconnect, right? And I find that when I do that, then we can go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And there's really no end to that. So that's what I love that. Multidimensionality becomes the bridge, the framework that allows intuition, neurodivergence, and queerness to coexist without contradiction. Yeah. I'm sure if you're here, you're one of those multi-passionate people like me, and we often fight in our heads about those contradictions, right? But they don't exist, right? We can be all of ourselves at the same time and make sense. The last part, I asked, what do you wish others understood about us or about you? And there was a really prominent message, and here's a quote really summarizing it. There's nothing wrong with us. We just experience life differently. Totally. Yes. I really love that. And they're asking to be met with curiosity, to have their sensitivity recognized as wisdom, and their difference as a doorway to deeper empathy. Yeah. So we have like a great group of people here, you included. Thank you for filling out the survey. If you did, if you want to, again, go to archelaus.com/survey. It's still there. And it's not long. You'll get to see the whole thing on one page. I hate those surveys where it's like click, 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 and like you never know when it's ending. The whole thing is on one page. and I don't share or store your information with any identifying markers. I don't even store your email address with your survey data, so totally safe. I would love to write a book about all of this. Like, what does this mean? Like, where are we going? Right? How are we changing things? Because there's so many of us. I really want to know, like, are we making our own thing? Are we are we the leading edge of creating a new world for everybody? Are we breaking apart? Like, I'm not really sure. I don't really care, but it is interesting to think about sometimes. I'm just trying to do my own thing as best I can and have as much fun as I can, which this year has included I've gotten very diversified in my activities. Like, I'm sewing more, making more quilts. I'm more active. I added more sports. Like, I started really training for running, and I started rock climbing, and I've been doing more hiking, and just in general going to my Orange Theory gym. And I even, yeah, earlier in the year, I did like a weightlifting competition and I won first place. So that's been interesting too. I feel like I've gotten more grounded, but also that's given me a really good, like, anchor to the earth to sort of just like put my branches out, and do all of this metaphysical stuff, which has been really cool. So, what about you? Are you getting more out there? Are you getting less out there? Have you felt any of how are you dealing with this year? This year has been so crazy. And I feel like getting into my body more has really helped me move forward and like make my own path. Though it hasn't been, you know, it's it's been a little challenging, as you know. Like, the first 6 months of my Substack this year were like, I'm having a really hard time. How do I be myself right now? But luckily, I feel like around July things started looking up. I appreciate you. I think you're wonderful. If you are celebrating a holiday this year, this week, have a good one, and we'll talk soon. I promise. I will be more out now. So I'll see you then. Bye for now. Lots of love.